Today I'm popping in to have a chat with Trudy Patterson. Trudy is an artist in her garden, an effervescent powerhouse of energy with a creative artistic bent. Like any living art, her garden changes with every season, but like the woman herself, it's always a delight to spend time enjoying, regardless of the weather. That's the joys of living with a garden, isn't it?
It is.
Ah, dear. Your garden's magnificent.
Thank you.
You must feel so proud of it.
Yeah, sometimes it's interesting. Like when you have a garden, you're always sitting there and thinking, that's not quite what I'd wanted. So you do another little bit, and another little bit, and then another bit, and then you rip all of that out and start again.
Trudy, where does your passion for gardening come from?
My mother. My mother was a very, very keen gardener, and I think I caught it from her. Just watching her and being involved with her in the garden, I learnt so much from her. I still use her practices in the garden. She was also a fine craftswoman. My brothers and sisters are all keen gardeners as well. Maybe it's just genetic. My grandfather was an orchardist. It's just in the blood.
Did you study horticulture, or has it been a lifetime of trial and error?
It's been both. I studied horticulture. I was nursing for a long, long time and ended up getting very burnt out with nursing and took a year off. Work out, well, what am I going to do? If I was going to pursue nursing, I needed to do some more study, and I really wanted to do something that I was really interested in and thought would satisfy me. So I studied hort at West Ryde. I really enjoyed that, and I started up my own little business at that point. That allowed me to look after the children who were young at the time. My husband Peter was travelling 3 or 4 months of the year, so it was very difficult at the time to manage the family, full-time nursing, high-stress nursing occupation, and the house and garden and everything. So it was the right thing for me to do at the time. I could manipulate when I was doing my gardening business. It gave me the ability to work that around Pete's travels and the children and kids' illnesses and all of the things that go with that.
So you've studied horticulture, but your garden is a work of art, like a painting. Did you study art, or is that something that comes naturally to you? Because your son is also an artist.
Yes, he is. And Sarah, my daughter's a florist and industrial designer. The links are all there. I can remember Sarah when she went for an interview for a job in floristry. The owner of the florist said, "What do you know about flowers?" And she said, "I've been surrounded by flowers all my life."
How much of a stress relief was gardening when you were nursing?
It was a huge release. It was a huge release. I spent a number of years working in NICU, PEDS ICU, and then I ended up in drug and alcohol, working with pregnant drug-dependent women, and had a consultant position ultimately in that drug and alcohol field. So it was a very busy, very stressful life, dealing with some pretty difficult clients, but it was a difficult political place to be working to. So the garden was very important.
Do you start with the design, or does it just evolve, as you just said?
It is an evolution. I mean, sometimes I think the garden just talks to you. When we moved in here, it was a mess, basically. And it just seemed to ask for a path to come in and be created. So that kind of happened, and it's all about what works, colour, and perfume. I love a perfume garden. Perfume is very special, and just looking at, the visuals of looking at something and seeing the patterns on the leaves and the contrast in the colours. It's fantastic, you just, and you work with that. I enjoy the fitness that I get out of the garden. I enjoy the comments. People go, they'll say, this is so relaxing. And it is, it's relaxing. It's helped me out in a lot of difficult times, it's a great stress release. It gives you time to quietly ponder life and all that it charges you with, or charges, life can charge at you from time to time. Somehow in that digging you work it all out, and you sort of carry on.
It's an escape from the world, isn't it?
It is an escape. It is an escape. themselves. It's dictated largely by the soil, your shade, all your light factors, all of those sorts of things. So, I mean, you can have all these bright ideas, but if the plants won't grow in that spot, then they won't grow in it. So it's all about all of those things. It's taking all those and your likes and dislikes. For me, it's about what flows in the garden as well. So it's about the movement, it's pattern and what colour.
Do you choose the colours for the garden or the garden for the colours?
I've ended up with a lot of pink and mauves and blues in the garden, but it's those things that seem to grow. You know, like the hydrangea, I've got a hedge of hydrangeas, and that's just as a really awkward, dark, wet spot, you know, which is what hydrangeas need. Hydra meaning water. Yeah, there's a lot of white.
White, that's a lovely contrast, isn't it?
Well, it is.
You have a very strong commitment to the Warners Bay Community Garden. What made you get so involved? Didn't you have enough to keep you busy here?
I was retiring, was needing an outlet, wanted to be with fellow gardeners, wanting to share that, find something that, you know, I was passionate about, other people were passionate about.
Sense of community.
Yes, it is about that community. You know, I love the garden and I've got the skills, I suppose, to say what needs to happen here and there. But for me, it's the community and those relationships that I've now got with these people and seeing the development of the relationships of those people together. It's absolutely amazing. I've never worked with an easier, lovelier group of people. So we can be a little bit quirky. It's very apolitical. And we laugh. We just laugh and laugh. You know, if someone's down, they're on the phone. You okay? Very, very caring and very, very special. And people are so generous. They're so generous with their time and energy. They're very skilled. They're willing to learn.
How many volunteers have you got there?
We've got about 70 people on the books. There's a regular turn-up of we're there every Wednesday. Some of those Wednesdays there's up to 20 people. And at times, working bee on a Saturday, there'll be up to 30.
How do you keep them engaged?
Well, I write a list of what needs to be done. Some people are just there for the chat, that's okay. The guys come in, and there's a lot of men's shed stuff happens there. They've been building the greenhouse, they've built a machinery shed, they're building beds, garden beds, and there's a huge sharing of skill. Then we have morning tea and there's much chatter.
It's a very accepting environment, it sounds like.
It's beautiful.
Definition of community.
Absolutely it is. It's amazing. It's incredible. You know, the chemicals in the soil have an effect on releasing endorphins, and that's probably true of me.
You grew up in Western Australia, didn't you?
I did.
The climes there are in the west are very different to in
the
east.
It's very temperate. It's
a
temperate and sandy soil, alkaline sandy soils, and a temperate climate. So it's a hot, dry summer and a cool, wet winter.
And so you had to modify the way you gardened when you moved to the east.
Absolutely, and that's just trial and error.
And you've travelled extensively, both in Australia and overseas.
Yes.
So has that influenced your art in the garden?
Yes. Some of the English gardens in particular, you know, I cried when I got to Sissinghurst. It was just, oh my goodness, it was just like being in heaven. And that's totally different again because they can have the herbaceous borders a lot more than we can. What we do here is you've got to modify according to the plants. So in the end, I end up with a lot of, I keep trying for a little cottage garden. A lot of it's to do with because of the weather. You're into your subtropical plants that are more about leaf colours and that sort of things. Luckily, you've got your gardenias that work. You've got a whole pile of perfume plants that actually do work in the garden. I've got any number of garden design books, which is also inspiring.
You have other artistic pursuits. Can you tell us about those?
Yes, I can't see waste in the garden, so I pot up a lot of stuff, but I look at vines and I look at all sorts. We could make a wreath out of that. So whenever I'm travelling, I'm collecting seeds and that. I've often come back from Perth with my suitcase filled with nuts and all sorts of gum nuts, and they have very special gum nuts in Western Australia. And I'll make wreaths for Christmas and so on. And now I've done a couple of little just day courses, but I've started trying to use palm fronds and have been playing with making baskets and just have a little play with stuff. But I have a studio now.
Oh,
I have a studio.
will I get to look at the studio?
You will come and visit my studio. Peter and I built it, and it was to be my shed. It was to be my shed. Well, we got a bit carried away.
As you do.
Yeah.
What's been the highlight of your journey as an artist and your greatest disappointment?
The highlight, I think, is seeing the garden grow, being able to sit on that deck and look out, being able to use the garden to make money for other things. It's really important that there was somewhere that I felt was okay enough to invite people in and that others would benefit from that. And the people who were working as a team doing that got such a buzz as well and want to do it again. That's been very special. Disappointments in the garden. The fact that I am getting older and that I'm not quite as strong as I used to be. The fact that I'm possibly going to have to get someone in to give me a hand. Very little disappointment. You know, the odd plant dies, but I talked at one stage at my 60th birthday. I gave a little speech. I just talked about my friends being like the plants and flowers in the garden, how watching them grow and seeing them shining, going through the ups and downs with them was very special and such a privilege. And that sometimes, no matter what you do, they still bloody die. And it just seemed to resonate with life.
What is the one thing you would change about your gardening journey as an artist in your garden?
Thank you. I've been more mindful now about planting native plants. I've planted what works. I have tried the natives, but I haven't persevered because they just don't seem to do well. It's probably I've chosen the wrong plants, the wrong spot, and I don't know enough about those particular plants. What I have achieved, though, despite not having a lot of natives here, is I've got frogs. I've got about 3 or 4 different varieties of frogs now where there were none. I've got 2 or 3 water dragons that have moved into the garden. Got blue tongues, and it's a haven for birds and other, and the possums and things like that. That's pretty special.
How has the art of gardening impacted your life?
It's brought me joy. It's my soul outlet, I suppose. It enriches me. I hope enriches things outside of me. Other people can enjoy it.
So you're saying that sharing your garden with others uplifts you mentally, physically?
Yeah, sharing it does. I hope it uplifts them.
Why is that important to you?
Because we all need something like that in our lives. So we've all got our baggage. And there's something, it soothes the soul to be in green and colour, flowers and perfumes and tactile.
At the end of the day, what does it do for you when you crawl into bed at night?
It makes me satisfied and happy.